Good afternoon, this is David Wendell with BushcraftOnFire, and we're pleased to be with you for another video. Today I want to talk about something that can save your life literally, and that's learning how to signal out in the bush in an emergency. You know, there's a code that has gone on, and I'm going to ask you a quiz. I'm going to tell you the answer at the end of the video. But here's a quiz. What does SOS stand for? You can put it down there in the comment box if you think you know. Put it down there before you watch the video. Now let's get on with signaling, because there's a couple of different things you can do during the day and during the night to signal to save your life. The first thing that you have to understand in signaling is that you need to be prepared. Now in order to do that, you have to have something with you that will cause a signal. I have a couple of different devices that I'm going to show you today that will enable you to send signals out, whether there's an aircraft coming by. Let's say you're stranded. You got an airplane went down, they don't know exactly where you are. I'm going to show you how you can signal to let people know where you are. Inversely, if you listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you, you can find out how not to give away your location if you're trying to stay stealth. So it's just the opposite. For example, if you can see my watch here, okay, you can see a glare off my watch. If I'm trying to stay stealth, that's a bad thing. But if I'm trying to be found, I can use my watch as a signal mirror. Now let me show you how to use a signal mirror, and that way you'll understand how to use your watch. We'll find out how to direct it right to where we want it to be, and then we'll show you also how to use it at less than a 90-degree angle. For example, right now the sun is just in our west, overhead pretty much. It's about 3:30 in the afternoon. If I was trying to signal a plane that was in the west, the north, or the south, it would be less than 90 degrees. But if there was a plane coming from the east, I would have to show you a way that you can use that signal mirror also at a greater than 90-degree angle. So let's take a look at that. Now the first thing I want to show you is what's generally called a signal mirror. This is carried by most of the military. This one is from Tops Knives, one of our sponsors. And for this video demonstration, I'm going to show you this comes with a protective covering on this mirror. I'm trying to get it so it doesn't shine on you. But you don't want to take this protective covering off unless you're in an emergency situation, because your mirror will get all scratched up and it won't work as well. But you can just, when you're in an emergency situation, take that protective covering off. It's got a little lanyard on here, and this mirror has a matte back. It does not have a mirror back on it. I'm going to show you how to use this mirror as well as a mirror that's mirrored on both sides. I carry with me on my belt here a mirror that has mirrors on both sides. Now I've taken the protective covering off of this. That was bad on my part, but I did it for demonstration purposes. So let me show you how to use this mirror first. Then I'll show you how to use it without the protective covering, because it's two different demonstrations. Alright, now what I'm doing is I'm facing basically to the southwest right now. The sun, as I said, is almost directly in the west. So I'm going to be shooting toward an airplane that may be over those trees. Tam, can you scan up around those trees there? Let's say an airplane is in that place, a part of the sky, or it's a far off mountain range, and I need to signal somebody from up there. Let's show you how to do that. Get over my other shoulder. Okay, now you can see that this has a mirror on both sides. One is going to reflect to the aircraft. The other is going to reflect back on me. And what I do is I hold this up. I don't know if Tam can get that in the picture, but as I turn that mirror, you can see my face in there. Now when I put that at the right angle, you can see the hole. Can you see the hole right there? What I need to do is I need to have that hole reflecting off me as I spot my airplanes. So then I can just turn it up. That's reflecting back off of me. I can see the hole with my other eye. And that shows me if I'm sighting the airplane through this hole, that airplane's going to see this flash. Now what if I have a mirror that doesn't have a reflective side? That tops mirror I showed you has a coated side. So let me show you how easy it is to do the very same thing. Now the heliograph has been used for years, as I said, in the military, and they generally have that reflective surface, and that's a traditional way to use it. But we found that these signal mirrors that have this coating are just as easy to use, and what I'm going to do is let you look over my shoulder again. I'm going to turn my mirror so that I can see through the hole the object that I'm looking at, and I'm going to align my finger to that point. I don't know if you can see on my finger the black spot from the eyesight. Now, as I look through here and I put that spot right at the tip of my finger where that airplane is, and then I can just move the mirror back and forth, that's going to shoot the signal up to the airplane. As long as my finger is in line with that hole, I can use that as a sighting object, and honestly, that's a lot more easy than doing it the other way. If I'm going at a 90-degree angle, I would do the same thing. That's less than 90, more than a 90. I would do the very same thing. What I would do is I would find the sun, I would sight the airplane going to the east, look through my spotting hole, and you can see on my finger the glare, and there, that plane is going to see that signal as I move that back and forth. So it gives me a general direction as to where that plane is. Heliographs can be seen many, many miles away. You may be able to see these 10, 15 different miles away from where you're at on a good day with full sun. One of the things I want you to notice, if you can get a shot of this real quick, just by putting my fingers on here and using this, it's already got fingerprints on it, it's picked it up. All those things will degrade the signal. Also, because of the size of this, it's a little limited. So let me show you something else that will be a real good point of reference that you could use without having to spend money on a heliograph. Now, one of the things that you can use instead of a heliograph will work the same way is a good old CD. This is just an old CD of my little girl's. It's no good anymore, it won't play, it's got a lot of scratches. But there's a big difference between the power of this because of the size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same demonstration, but I'm going to shoot across the field. Tam, if you get a picture of that tree with the bird box on it there, zoom in a little bit, that's about, I don't know, 50, 75 yards away. And Tam will go stand over there with the camera. You won't be able to hear me, but at that point I will go ahead and shoot this signal so that you can see it and see how it looks on camera.
Alright, first he's using the smaller signal mirror. And now for the larger.
So there's a couple of illustrations and demonstrations of what we call the heliograph, whether it's with the small heliograph that you can buy, or whether it's with a DVD, a CD, whichever you want to use. You know, we get these in the mail all the time from AOL. Just toss them in your e-kit, they don't weigh anything. Great signaling devices. But what else can we use to signal during the day or during the evening? Now actually, before I get into that, let me explain something again to you. If I don't have a CD, if I don't have a heliograph, I can use my watch. I can use it the same way. I can just get that sunshine to focus to where I need it, and I can go ahead and shine that down as we did earlier. I could also use a pair of glasses. Here's my watch. If I had a pair of glasses, I could use them. I could also use a piece of aluminum foil. Glasses with aluminum foil behind it is even better. All those things will throw signals out. So remember that if you're ever in a situation where you need to get attention. But let's look at something else that we can do during the day to give attention as well. Come on, you ready? Now, in a situation where I'm in a survival situation, where I would really need help, I generally try to keep a fire going at all times. One of the reasons for that is because it's necessary to have fire if you want to be seen. Open fire at night can be seen for many, many miles, 10, 15, 20 miles even. Smoke during the day, if you can make your fire smoky, is also a signal. Now everybody knows that there's a rule of threes, and in a survival situation where you are trying to send a signal, where you're signaling, the rule of threes is also applicable. Remember that SOS? We're going to get to that in just a few minutes. But what I would do is generally set up 3 signal fires about 25 to 50 foot apart. I would have these fires ready to go in a survival situation where all I had to do was to light a blaze underneath of them. They need to have a good fire base, and they need to be covered from the elements at all times. What I would do is generally build these fires about 5 to 6 foot tall and as big as my fire pit, 4 or 5 foot in diameter. Now, in order to simplify things here today and to give you the idea, I'm going to just build one fire to show you. Now, I always keep my fire going, as I said, so all that I have to do is have tinder available here by the fire that I can quickly put on. If I hear or see an airplane or rescue coming to see me, what I'm going to do is quickly put wood on this fire, and then I'm going to add stuff to make it smoke if it's daylight. So let's do that real quick. I've got some small stuff I can throw on here, a little bit larger, and again, this fire would generally be about 6 foot tall. So what I'm doing here is showing you how to do this very quickly on a small scale. What I'm going to do is take a piece of pipe, tubing, I'm going to blow in there just to get that fire going. And there we go. Now, you may ask me this. One of the things that I'm doing here is I'm actually going against the general rule of fire making. That is, I'm leaving my bark on. Because of that, you can see a lot of smoke already. If you want to stay stealth, make sure that your wood is as dry as possible. Make sure that you don't put any more wood on the fire than you need to at any given time. And make sure that that wood is not got bark on it, because that bark will hold the moisture in and cause it to smoke as this fire is. But let me show you what we do once we get this fire going a little bit. You can see it's starting to catch. It's been about 50 seconds now since we started this. I'm going to blow it just a little bit more. Make sure I have a good blaze. Now once that I have that blaze going, and it doesn't take very long, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bunch of dried leaves onto this fire. I'm also going to add a whole bunch of greens on here. And those greens are what we want, because those greens are going to cause that smoke to really start coming up. And you can see already the smoke's getting kind of heavy. I'm going to get Tam to move back a little bit so she can show you a better shot of this. Well, there we go. We've got a good smoke signal beginning. And again, it took about a minute and a half to get this going. There's a couple lessons we can learn from this. That the smoke, now you'll notice that the smoke that's coming out of here is thick black smoke. That's what I want. If I had tires, or if I had rubber with me and I put that on this fire, it would make it even smokier. So if I was in a downed airplane, I would search for those tires, oil, gas. Those things are going to cause this to smoke even more. One thing I wanted to show you while we're here, I have a blowpipe that I use for my fire to get air in there and cause it to expand quickly, get a lot of oxygen into the fire. What if you didn't have that in an emergency situation? Well, a lot of people have tubing in their e-kits for water purification. Or you may have tubing or piping from an airplane, from a car, from some other source that you found. You could even use a hollow reed that you found out in the bush. So there's a lot of alternatives to this. This was just an example, but you can find ways around it if you use your mind and innovate. Now, while you're using this fire method, let me explain something to you. You don't want to do this under the tree line. The reason for that is because the trees will disperse smoke. Again, remember that if you're trying to stay stealth, because if you don't want to be seen, build small fires underneath trees. That will help disperse the smoke for you, especially if you're using cedar or pine. That will help disperse that smoke very well. While we're at it, some of the good things that you can throw onto that fire to make it really smoke, as I said, are grasses, dried leaves. Another thing that you can do is to use pine or cedar boughs if you have them available, because they'll really make a lot of smoke for you and it'll be good smoke. Something else that will help you if you have water nearby is, instead of putting dry leaves on, wet your leaves somewhat and put them on a blazing fire, and they'll smoke a lot more than dry leaves. Again, what smoke is that moisture coming out of the wood, coming out of the leaves, coming out of whatever it is that you're putting on that fire. So that'll help you out. Well, there you go. That's another way that you can send a signal. Again, remember your rule of threes. You want to have 3 fires spaced out approximately 25 to 50 foot apart, either in a straight line or in a triangle, and that's a distress signal. Now, one thing that you can use at night, of course, is your fire, and that will show people right where you are. Another thing that you can use is a flashlight. I use a flashlight that has 18 LEDs in here, and that signal, again, on a dark night, will be visible from a long way away. So there's 3 different ways of finding your way back to civilization if you're stranded somewhere, if you're lost, if you're in a survival situation. The distress code, SOS, what does it mean? It actually means nothing. Many people have said that it means save our ship or save our souls, but the distress code was actually, back in 1904, set up by Marconi and was a radio signal distress code. Then it went into the Morse code, and SOS was 3 dashes, 3 dots, 3 dashes, and then 3 dots. Again, 3 sets of 3, which was the emergency distress code. That's where SOS came from, folks. I hope that you've learned a little bit on signaling to save your life. This is David Wendell on Bushcraft on Fire. We're pleased to be with you today. Hope you enjoyed this video. Join us again for another video. We'll see you soon.